What's good, everybody? I hope y'all are having a great day. Today's video, we're going to be covering a game by Hikaru Nakamura, in which case he starts out with a modern defense, a very aggressive Tigers modern type of approach on the queen side, but eventually turns into more of a Hippopotamus Defense type game. Before going into that, I do want to mention I have a 30% off discount code for all of my courses. If you're interested in that, you can go down to the description below. Go to one of the links and plug in the discount code CHESS25. If you do so, you will get 30% off on any course or courses you decide to invest in. And anyone who has purchased a course in the past or does it now will get 40% off on my next course on chess endgames, which is going to be over 20 hours in length, meant to get you into the top 1% of endgame players. This discount code is only good until the end of September. Again, the discount code there is CHESS25. You'll get 30% off on your purchase. Going to the game here. Hikaru Nakamura against the move of e4. We have 1, 2, and here the move of 3. This is how I start off my games. And now we have the move a6 and b5. So as you can see here, very aggressive play on the queen side. If you're playing against someone, and I mean, let's say you're playing as white here and black's going with this. Black's not in a hippo right now. I mean, they could go into a hippo depending on how they approach this, but black very well may play knight f6 the next move or in the next couple of moves. It just depends on how black approaches this kind of position. You have flexibility, right? You could play knight f6 here. You could play knight to d7. You could play bishop to b7, right? In the game here, we have bishop b7 followed by knight to f6. Knight f6. And okay, now we're not in a hippo. This is looking like a regular type of modern defense standard line. And g4 is played. Now, in these types of positions, guys, you don't want to let white play h5. It's just not good. I mean, if you play like knight bd7, for example, h5, white has all the leverage. If you take, white could take, or they could even push their pawn and kick your knight and then look to take on h5. I mean, that's just not fun at all. And on top of that, they could push whenever they want. They could take whenever they want. If we don't take, we don't want to give white that kind of position. So what do we see here? The move of h5 from Hikaru. Just putting a stamp on that h-pawn going, yeah, you're going to stay there. You're going to stay. I'm not letting you push. So h5, great move there, necessary move. The engine actually likes black's position now. And in the game, g5 was played. If white does take on h5, we're going to take there with the knight. We're not going to take with the rook. If you take with the rook there, the rook very easily gets kicked off of its spot, and then the white pawn continues to push. So let's take with the knight. The knight can't get kicked by anything except a pawn, and, well, there's no pawn that can get there now. So that would have been, the best way to go about it. But okay, in the game here, white ends up going with g5, and with knight fd7. I do want to take a quick look at f4. Knight ge2 is playing the game. Why wasn't f4 played? Why isn't this just crushing for white? Well, how many defenders does this have? 1. How many attackers do we have? 1. Let's look to remove the defender. And white doesn't want to drop this guy. So knight d5 is by far white's best option. But here, okay, we play the move of e6. And, we're trying to get that knight off of its square. And if you play the best move of queen takes b4, we can defend our bishop and maintain the pressure that we have on that knight. I mean, if knight to c3, knight c6 is playable. And if we see queen a4, for example, let's attack the queen again. This queen cannot hang on to d4. We have 2 attackers on it. And yes, you're pinning our knight, but you can't stay there unless you want to drop your queen. And you can't go to b4 or c4. So once the queen runs, we can then take on d4. And we have a great position here, great development. White has completely overextended their position. I'm not worried about castling queenside or something like that. I could play bishop to c5. I could throw in a check here and look at this pawn on f4. This is just crushing on a positional level. With knight c6, if queen c4, I'm just going over some ideas here. This is a very special type of idea that I want you guys to keep in mind if you're going up against overextended pawns. White here has 5 pawns that are on the 4th rank or further. And here as black, we can play the move of d5. A beautiful idea. Now, let's just think about this for a second. If white takes, We capture on e4, and now the squares of f5 and d5 are ours in a lot of ways. I mean, even if you take with the knight here, okay, sure, maybe c4 could be played at some point, but white's just overextended right now. We have this bishop looking at e4, looking at the rook. Let's attack the queen. Let's capture e4. We're threatening to take this rook. We're threatening knight takes c2. And we're also up in material right now. We're up a piece for a pawn. You take on b4. Okay, thanks for the rook. We're up 4 points in material now. We're up a rook. White only has a pawn in return. And positionally speaking, getting rid of that e-pawn, getting rid of the pawn between the pawns on f4 and d4 gives us the positional advantage of having f5 and d5 available. So whenever you see 3 pawns side by side, if you're able, I don't care if it's here, I don't care if it's here, I don't care if it's here, if you're able to get rid of the center pawn, so in this case, the pawn in the middle of those, that's going to weaken the squares in front of the pawns on the side, which is great. And here, if white takes, okay, knight b6 is playable, right? So you could play knight b6. You could also play knight e7. I mean, white here, if white decides to take, then we have multiple options, including bishop takes h1 or the engine move of knight b6. Sure, you could take, that's fine. Our opponent is up 4 pawns here, but they're about to lose their rook or their queen. And if like bishop g2 or something, knight b6, notice white here doesn't have a good check. Our knight covers a4, our pawn covers b5, and we have multiple minor pieces covering c6. We can now take on d5. And this was so scary, right? But because we got rid of that central pawn, d5 and f5 are weakened. And this is now a square that no white pawn can attack / defend for the rest of the game. And I think with d5, it's going to be practically difficult as c4, I mean, even just exposes your position even more. For example, here, if we see the move of c4, we just take. You take our knight, thanks for the bishop. You take our bishop, we're attacking your rook now. We're attacking your pawn. We're looking at c2. We're looking at b4. This is beautiful stuff. So white here in the game was a lot more careful and cautious to keep a pawn looking at e4. All right, the second you play f4, this pawn doesn't have a pawn that can defend it. And that's an important point as well, right? When you're looking at a 3-pawn center, I'm not saying 3-pawn centers are always bad. I'm just saying that this pawn in the center, if you can get rid of it somehow, if you can make it push, if you can make it take something, there will be weaknesses that form. And on top of that, this pawn can't be defended by either of these guys because the pawns right next to it have already expanded. Nonetheless, in the game here, we have knight g2. Knight b6 is played. And all of a sudden here, right, we actually have ourselves kind of going into a hippo type formation. Now, it's a little bit different because, I mean, we have a knight on b6 and a knight on d7. That's pretty rare. Usually we have a knight on b6 and a knight on e7 in the hippo. But this is a very playable type of game. I mean, white didn't castle queenside. If they did, though, let's push. Let's push again. Let's castle kingside. Right? If you play f4, we take on e4. There's your central pawn. White's position is busted because d5 is weak and f5 is weak. We can start throwing pieces into d5 as an example. And if white plays knight g3, all right, we keep pushing. You want to take? Okay, we take. You want to take again? All right, rook a1. And we have a bishop aimed towards that side of the board. We have a queen that is able to come to a8 and just form a great battery ram there. And keep in mind, do you want to break this diagonal open? Yeah, play c5. Play c5 there. If white takes, you could take on b1 with check. You could even take on c5 again. And notice here, white can't take with the queen or the bishop without running into, rook takes b1 as an option, or knight takes c5. We could keep just going along with this and eventually take on b1. You can't even take back without getting mated on the spot. So this is such a great position for us. This bishop on g7 is an incredible attacking piece if we see castling queenside. Here in the game, white castles kingside. Can't blame him. The king is a lot safer on that side of the board. And keep in mind, just because your pawns are in front of your king, that doesn't mean that your king's not safe. You got to look at how your opponent can attack the king. Black is going to have a much harder time attacking this king than a king on c1. Based on the positioning of our pieces, based on pawn breaks, all that kind of stuff. So this king is very safe, incredibly safe on g1. Here we have rook a d1 played in the game, and the engine actually likes b4. Hikaru missed this move. b4 followed by playing d5, and this is really nice stuff. I mean, we're covering c3, we're covering a3, we're covering c4, and if you push to e5, f5 is weakened, right? And really here, there's no way to get a knight there at the moment. But what I would say is that, okay, we can play a5, we can look towards bishop a6, we can look towards c5. How is white going to break open the kingside here? Cannot move, cannot move. Can move, but we have a double pawn clamp. Cannot move, cannot move. And okay, sure. For black, it's the same thing. We can't move any of these, but we can play c5, and that's what we're going to be looking at. In the game, we see the move castling kingside instead. a4 is played. We have capturing off, and here the move of a5, locking in that a4 weakness. This pawn is isolated, and we are quickly able to play knight to b6. But if we just play, knight b6 here, attacking the pawn on a4, that's fine, right? That's playable. But a5 here, it's a nice move. a5 is a nice move, locking in that weakness, and then playing knight b6. Queen a2 is played. I mean, white here is just trying to hang on to everything. Bishop a6, Hikaru here, continuing to add the pressure. Rook c1 is played, and here in the game, d5 is what we see. The engine actually likes a more slow approach of just, hey, this is our worst piece. Let's just activate that guy. If c5 here, we can take. We're not worried about that. We have knight c4 as an example. We could even take on a4 there, because if the queen captures back, we have eyes on e2. The queen's overworked. She has too big of a job right now. So there's a lot of moves that are good. Taking on e2 and then a4. Taking on a4 with the idea of taking on e2 next. Knight c4 works, because if the rook takes, we're not taking that. We're playing rook b2. And you can either lose your queen or save your queen, but then lose your rook. So, that's crushing. But all right, in the game we have the move d5. We have capturing off here. Notice just how active that bishop is. And with the move e5 here, what's a good outpost here? How could we improve this bishop even more? Bishop c4, attacking the queen. Queen c2. What's an active move here? What's the engine move? Queen a3, played by Hikaru as well. Hanging bishop. We're now going after that pawn on a4 twice. That pawn on a4, it got locked up. It just can't escape. It can't escape getting attacked. And, here in this case, the best thing white could do is queen to d2. We still have a great game, though. We take on a4. If rook a1, we offer a trade. And white here, if you take, we capture back. We are just cruising in this position. That single pawn is going to give us the win. And that's something that, I'm talking about in my upcoming endgames course. A single pawn will often give you a winning position. It's just knowing how to use that single pawn to convert into a one game. But okay, in the game here, we have knight c3. Hikaru goes, yeah, sure, I'll take the exchange. We have c6, playing solidly. And here, knight c4. Active chess. Now, yes, by playing knight c4, white can take and double up these pawns, but by taking, white just traded down, and we're up material. So trading down is exactly what we want. We have f5, and white has a lot of pressure here, right? So we see the move of g takes, and with queen takes f5, we have the rook coming to b8, and white has to try to make something happen. They're just down material here. They're down the exchange. We have a passed pawn on c4. I know it's doubled, but it's actually pretty okay right now. There's no good way for white to really start attacking it in a successful way. And look, if white plays g6, what could we do? Rook b3. Right? Not every move needs an immediate response. All right, g6, we just play rook b3. We're doubling up against that knight. If you take on f7, we take back. You want to throw in a check? Okay, we move. Crushing position for us. And by the way, if queen takes h5, okay, this is one of those positions. We got to respond to this. All right, we take. And then if you take back, we say thanks for the knight. But when you see a move, just ask yourself, okay, I know that I could take this. I know that I could, do multiple things. Is this a threat? What is that move actually threatening? This move doesn't threaten anything at all. And in the game, the move of e6 was played, and we see the move of queen to e7, right? Hikaru here doesn't take, just goes, okay, queen e7. White ends up capturing, we have rook takes, and then when the queen runs defending the bishop, rook bf8 is played, and here white seemingly resigns, which makes sense, because black here is up the exchange, and, what are you going to do about this? If you play rook f1, we take. And I mean, if your queen takes, you lose your queen. We're looking at rook f3. And I'm not even sure how you stop that right now. I mean, that's tough. You could play king g2, which makes rook f3, you know, a little bit worse in some senses. But I mean, it's still complete. I don't even know if it's worse per se. I know that white gets some material there, but this is a position where we have a queen and white's king is not safe. In queen endgames, also covered in the endgames course, you want your king safe. In most endgames, you just play with an active king. King and pawn endgame, king and knight endgame, king and bishop, king and rook. Yeah, throw your king out, play actively. Who cares if your king's not safe? Against the queen, you need a safe king. And this king here is just not safe. All right, we're looking at g4. Let's say you stop that. Okay, f5 check. Let's say you decide to run to g2. Okay, c5, breaking things open. This is a crazy position. Stuff is flying everywhere. And we have a queen. So it's simply crushing there. Let me know what you thought of this game by Hikaru. I thought that he did a nice job of playing the modern defense aggressively on the queen side, and he used Hippopotamus Defense ideas as the game went on. He kind of molded his position into a hippo, and this is why I'm such a big fan of studying multiple openings, studying the Pirc, studying the hippo, studying the modern, studying those types of openings, because you'll find yourself in any of those spots, in a King's Indian defense, King's Indian attack, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, wait, if I play e6 and knight back, oh, there's a hippo idea here. Oh, there's a King's Indian idea here. Oh, this is like the King's Indian, but better. And you start to kind of grow in your skills of just overall chess understanding. Of course, Hikaru showed that off well in this game. Before signing off, quick reminder, the 30% off discount code for all of my privately published courses is CHESS25. Go down to the description below, pick any of those links, plug in the discount code CHESS25, and you will get 30% off on any course and 40% off on the upcoming Chess Endgames course if you have purchased the course or if you decide to. See you in the next video. I wanted to finish this video out by giving a big thanks to Walter, Steve, Rob, that's a lot of Robs, Ray, Roger, and the rest of my Patreon community. I appreciate you guys a ton. If you guys haven't checked out the Patreon before, there are some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Peace.